I never had a strong opinion on abortion. It wasn't something that we talked about as a family, and that all changed for me in a very dramatic way. I still remember it like it was yesterday. So when my mother told me that I was almost aborted, that I literally had an appointment to die, I knew that God had saved me, and I knew it was a sign that He loved me and He wanted me. My mother and father were both scared when they found out that they were pregnant, and I believe that fear, intimidation is what led them to choose to schedule an abortion for me. So she went to a hospital and she made an appointment, and she went in and she paid for the abortion, and they put her in a little, hospital robe, and she was waiting for the doctor to call her name. And she sat in the hallway, and as she sat, she actually began to cry, and I think she was just overwhelmed by the emotion of what she was about to do and the feelings, I think, of fear and anxiety and shame. And as she cried, an African-American woman, an older woman who was a janitor in the hospital, did something that was very bold for a stranger to do. But she walked right up to her and she lifted up her chin and she looked in her eyes and said, "Do you want to have this baby?" My mother said that her eyes were like pools of water. And she looked into her eyes and she said, "Yes." And the woman said, "Then God is going to give you the strength to have this baby." But she put her head down and she picked it back up and she was just completely gone. My mother walked back into the waiting room, and at that moment the doctor called her name, and she walked into his office and there was a puddle of blood on the floor from the last abortion that he had done. He had not even cleaned up the blood. And my mom saw it and she was disgusted, and she said, I've changed my mind. I'm not going through this." And to her great surprise, he said, "No, you've already paid for this. You're staying." He told her, "Don't leave this room." And he began to get angry. But she said, "No, I'm leaving." She walked out. She practically ran out. And she went right through the waiting room, didn't get her money back, didn't do anything, went right downstairs, picked up a payphone, and called my dad and told him that she didn't go through with it. I never knew that story until I was in my mid-20s. But when I heard it, I didn't hate my mother, because I knew that I had been rescued really in the 11th hour, and that God had intervened in my life to save me in a moment when no one else heard my voice, in a moment when no one else could see me, no one knew my name, that God reached down from heaven, that He delivered me because He delighted in me.